Mark Cuban's response to Elon Musk, and I want to go right to him because you had Mark Cuban on your podcast about a month ago, and it was a very, very good conversation the two of you guys had back and forth. I thought it was one of those shows that everybody needs to watch, but this is Elon Musk. But Rob, if you go to his account, good luck finding it. This guy tweets 50 times a minute, so you're going to need to keep going.
It's almost like he owns the thing.
Yeah, it's almost like he owns the thing.
Jeez.
So what date is that, Rob? It's hours. You're
7 hours ago.
Okay, do me a favor. Why don't you do it this way, Rob? Go to my Twitter account, Rob, if you could. Go to my Twitter account, okay? If you go there, you will see go one more, rest in peace, go one more, right there, okay? Click on his first, then click on Elon's. There you go.
Nice.
Okay. So
I saw this one. Yep.
very few Americans realize that if Trump is not elected, this will be the last election. Far from being a threat to democracy, he is the only way to save it. Let me explain it. If even 1 in 20 illegals become citizens per year, something that the Democrats are expediting as fast as humanly possible, that would be 2 million new legal voters in 4 years. The voting margin in the swing states is often less than 20,000 votes. That means if the Democratic Party succeeds, there will be no more swing states. Moreover, the Biden-Harris administration has been flying asylum seekers who are fast-tracked on citizenship directly into swing states like Pennsylvania, Ohio, Wisconsin, and Arizona. It is a sure way to win every election. America then becomes a one-party state, and democracy is over. The only elections will be Democratic Party primaries. This already happened in California many years ago following the 1986 amnesty. Mm-hmm. The only thing holding California back from extreme socialism and suffocating government policies is that people can leave California and still remain in America. Once the whole country is controlled by one party, there will be no escape. Everywhere in America will be like the nightmare that is downtown San Francisco. Then Cuban responds, if you want to go back one. There you go, Rob. He responds back and says, Elon, there will come a time when you need something from Trump. You will think you will have earned the right to ask and receive. You have been a loyal, faithful soldier to him. You have supported him politically with tens of millions of dollars. Then at the point you need him the most, you will find out what so many before you have learned. His loyalty is only to himself. So when you see that, I give my response. I said, in other words, Kamala owes you many favors. 2, you trust that Kamala Harris will 100% deliver on her favors she owes you. 3, you were expecting a job from Trump in 2016 and didn't get it. Or 4, you're assuming Elon is wired like you. What is your thoughts, Vivek, when you see this interaction?
So look, I actually love authentic, no holds bar, take off the filter interactions. And I think the beauty of X, right, which Elon bought, is that you can have these exchanges out in the open. So I give Mark Cuban, he's going to take some criticism for it, but he's got the guts to say what he wants. Elon is like so many other business people who are too afraid in corporate America of being canceled for their views. You know what he told the advertisers to go screw themselves, F off, basically, is what he told them. And so I think it's just great when we have more of these gloves off, straight up pummeling conversations. Now, I'll tell you this is about Elon is both of those things that those two guys said can be true, right? Where Mark Cuban says, oh, you're not going to get something from Donald Trump for it, which may reveal that that's not actually Elon's motivation. Elon's motivation is that he cares about the future of the country. And so there's two different visions of American politics. One is where you're dealing with politicians as puppets, pieces on a chessboard. And you got the people who are wielding those interests, moving them on that chessboard. That's one vision. And that exists. I mean, that is a real sad, dark reality of how a lot of American politics works. And then there's the separate version, which is the idealistic vision, which is to say that I have certain shared ideals. And Elon and Donald Trump don't agree on everything. Donald Trump and I don't agree on everything. I think the part of the coalition that President Trump has built this time around especially is it's a group of people who don't agree on 100% of every last issue, but still agree on the basic principles of how the country is supposed to work. Free speech and open debate. Meritocracy. The best person ought to get the job, not based on their race or their skin color. You actually have to have self-governance. It shouldn't be bureaucrats running the country, but elected representatives. The rule of law, that's a big one. I mean, that relates to this whole issue related to the immigration crisis. Elections we can trust and believe in. Those are basic rules of the road. And we're united around that. Great. I'm not expecting anything in return. I just want to see that happen for the country. I think that's where Elon's coming from here. And so is there an element of truth to what Mark Cuban says about generally how American politics works? Absolutely. The idea that there are people who do it expecting special favors in return. Is that the relationship that Elon says he has or even appears to have with Donald Trump? Absolutely not. It's a group of shared allies. And I consider myself in this boat as well, who I don't want anything for myself in response. I don't care about what that means for me individually. It's not what I get, but it's about what do we all give to advance the ball forward for our country. And that's my sense of where Elon's coming from as well.
Tom, your thoughts?
I think there's some very obvious things that Mark Cuban was projecting. I mean, Mark Cuban has entered the pharmaceutical industry with fanfare. I believe there's some nobility to what the company's trying to do, but also he needs a lot of assistance. He's made a comment about wanting to be head of the SEC, and he also went head-to-head with the SEC, and they went after him. And he had a famous quote that was, you have to be very careful if a government investigator wants your skin on the wall, because they're probably going to get it. And so there's kind of something that's come full circle there. But I think I appreciate what you said, because I don't believe that both men, Elon and Cuban, are on the same wavelengths. I do believe Elon is very, very concerned and very serious and accurate, without spin, about the country and about the future of elections. I think that's true. And I also think that Cuban is a little self-interested right now and seems to have kind of put on the jersey all the way. And I think there's stuff that he wants, and I think he's serious about the SEC, and I also think he's serious about the assistance he wants for his pharmaceutical company. I think that there's nothing in Cuban that cares about the country? No. I don't think he's completely over the waterfall.
Adam.
Well, I think it's most ironic to see who's in Trump's corner these days.
We're being very political right now, so this is like very safe talk so far. So
maybe I'll be a little controversial then.
I like you calling this out, Patrick. That's
can
good.
we pull up that quote again? Elon's spot on with what's going on with the border. I mean, I think that whatever's happened with the border sort of disqualifies the never was the border czar, Kamala Harris, from actually protecting the border. But the part of this, let me explain forever, that even if 20 illegals become citizens per year, something that Democratic are expediting, seemingly possible, that would be 2 million new legal voters in 4 years. There's been talk of this for a while. You know, the one thing that Cuban gets true is Trump does demand loyalty. I mean, I don't know if he, asked for your hand in loyalty or anything like that, but that is sort of something that you hear about Trump, is that there's a one-way street to loyalty. We've heard it. We've heard people talk about this. How many people have come through the Trump administration that said, I cannot support this guy? Generals, the list goes on and on and on. But if it's a binary choice, which it is at this point, I mean, Kamala has disqualified herself, in my opinion, but it doesn't mean that Trump is perfect. So
let me say this word, because this comes up a lot with Donald Trump, and people use it mostly as like a negative to say that he wants loyalty. Let me frame this in a different way, which I think is closer to the mark. I think if you're an executive, right, and Patrick, we'll just bring this back to the business setting. You have a mission at a company. You want people who work at the company who are aligned with that mission. That doesn't mean that you're a bad person if you're not. Let's say your mission is, I don't know, making water bottles. Maybe you could think about a different example. Maybe your mission is you have a steakhouse, okay, and you want to serve excellent steak. You want people who are aligned with that mission, not somebody who's opposed to the existence of a steakhouse. That doesn't mean that person doesn't have the right to have that opinion. It just means they shouldn't be working at your company. Well, the same thing I would say of running the U.S. government. You have a vision for the country. You have a way you want to run the show. You want to thin out, let's say, bureaucracy. You want to limit the number of federal regulations that are being passed by bureaucrats. You don't want people who are working for you who believe in a different vision for the country. That doesn't mean they're bad people. That doesn't mean that they don't enjoy the same rights as every other American. But who on earth would say that I'm running as an executive an entire set of departments, but I have people who are unaligned with the mission that I'm on? So there's a difference between loyalty in the sense of like, okay, you have to sign. No, I did not when I endorsed Donald Trump. I was not asked to sort of do a blood oath.
No blood oath.
Okay, there's no blood oath. All right, we did not cut our arms and bleed together. No, that was not that kind of
like
loyalty.
The Hangover.
But the question is, are you aligned with the same mission? Now, it doesn't mean you can have some disagreements. Of course, I said earlier, we don't agree on 100% of issues. Elon and Donald and you have a bunch of other people and Trump who are supporting Trump don't agree with him on every other issue, on every individual issue. But are you aligned on the basic mission? I do think you got to be loyal to the overall mission of making America great again, of reviving our constitutional principles. And I think that that's, again, like so many things with the media, been perverted to mean something very different, as though it's some type of personal thing.
Yeah, I mean, you earned that, right? And what's the earning? Moral authority. How do you get moral authority? By delivering on your promises. If you're doing your part and you're setting the example, then the expectation for loyalty goes higher. This is in sports. Tom Brady. The other day, a clip came out, which I freaking loved. I don't know if you saw this exchange with Baker Mayfield and Tom Brady.
I did not know.
Okay, so check this out. So Baker Mayfield, if you have that, type in Baker Mayfield and Brady. That clip is everywhere. I would like to see Baker and Brady. If there's a video that shows both of them, it's not in there. Well, I'll just tell you what he said. So Baker says, "Look, I mean, when Brady was here at Tampa, it was very stressful, because guys were all on the edge. They wanted me to. This is the one. Go ahead and play this, Rob. This is the entire clip. So watch this."
Our guy here said, quote, "They wanted me to come in, be myself, bring the joy back to football for guys who weren't having as much fun." It's funny because you've made this environment for me very stressful up here in the booth, so I understand where he's coming from.
Do you feel it?
No.
Feel the stress? No. Well, I was going to say, I thought stressful was not having Super Bowl rings. So there was a mindset of a champion that I took to work every day.
Watch what he says. If I want to have
fun.
fun.
This wasn't daycare. If I wanted to have fun, I was going to go to Disneyland with my kids.
You can pause it right there.
So,
now, listen, Baker's having a good start, but there's a difference between somebody who is on, he's on the road, working his ass off, away from his family, doing their part. You can expect loyalty. So I don't have a challenge with that part. And I know sometimes the argument is you got to be loyal to the country for sure, but that person gave you the job. Let's fulfill the mission and be aligned towards whatever the mission is. Okay. Do you think Cuban, this is just a feel, I'm curious to know what you'll say. Do you think he has interest of running in 28?
I think it would not shock me if he did.
Okay.
I think if you asked him right now, in his own heart, he would tell himself that, no, of course I'm not interested in that. I'm crushing it in the private sector. I can't handle, that type of public life. But I think in his heart, he's clearly got something in him that is drawing him back. He's really interested in American politics, really interested in expressing his own opinions. And to his credit, engaging with people who disagree with him. He and I had a great hour-long conversation. I didn't want to dunk on him too much there. My goal was to bring him on.
You weren't trying to do that.
Yeah, that was not the goal. But I think that, would I be shocked if he did in 28? No, I would not.
Yeah, I think, by the way.
And I think he'd have a reasonable following behind him.
I think he would.
Because people like a businessman.
I think he would be a phenomenal candidate for the left. I think he'd be a phenomenal candidate for the left, and I think he'd be formidable.
Look, I just look at it this way. If instead of Kamala Harris being the nominee, say it was fill in the blank of who it was, but somebody of Mark Cuban's pedigree, right? Maybe use him as an example. Would that be better for the country? Undoubtedly, it would be better for the country, right? Because then we could have a contest based on ideas about people who on both sides, say what you will, know at least how to win through American capitalism, which is part of what made this country great the first time around. I think that would be better for the country. Do I disagree with his policy views? I do, especially on issues relating to ESG, DEI, equity in the country. But let's have that debate in the open amongst people who at least are competent and have achieved success, rather than what we have right now, which is somebody who's never signed the front of a paycheck, only ever signed the back of one from public funds to their bank account. And I think that is something we need more of on both sides, is people who have succeeded in the private sector, businessmen or businesswomen, whatever, in American politics. I think that's a good thing.
But as the Democratic Party shifted so far left that the thought of a white male billionaire running their party at this point is just absolute absurdity at this point.
It's interesting. So I was at the hotel. Yeah, my family's here, and we were hanging out in the beach of Miami. A guy comes up to me by the pool, and he's kind of, people are always, you notice when people notice you, but I've had a lot of conversations about taking pictures all day. So I'm trying not to really make eye contact right there because I was looking for some alone time. But he says, "Hey, you're Vivek, right?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "Well, listen up. I'm a Democrat. I'm pretty involved in politics. I'm an entrepreneur. I'm a big fundraiser for Democrats. But I got to tell you, I don't agree with you on everything, and I'm not for your guy. But I agree with your criticisms of the far left, and I'm about as fed up with the far left as you are. And I just want you to know that." I said, "Oh, okay, well, that's interesting to me." I see that current. I think the same is probably true for Mark Cuban, too.
But he's still going to vote for Kamala, that same guy.
Of course.
He's still going to vote for their policies. That's the biggest problem, though.
Well, so here's
I don't agree with those people on the left, but I'm still going to vote for him.
But here's what's going on in this election, actually. So I think our side sometimes misses the plot when we say Kamala is a communist or a socialist. That's giving her too much credit. Right? Because she doesn't actually have policies. The fluidity of her policies is actually a feature. not a bug for the people who are controlling her. So Biden had these cognitive deficits. Biden's cognitive deficits were a feature because it allowed the people who controlled him to have total wield control over his thoughts or his behaviors. With Kamala, it's the equivalent with her policy deficits. So it's not that they're voting for Kamala despite the fact that she is some sort of far-left ideologue. It's the fact that she's not ideological really at all. She's another cog in the system, just a different kind of cog. So I think their bet is that like a lot of these people, even billionaire types on the left, center left that I've talked to, I'll say, okay, how is it defensible to stand for a tax on unrealized capital gains? And I think that, and you all know what that issue is about, right?
25%, yeah.
Yeah, but the basic point is they could bring it down to other people as well, which is to say that even if you don't have the cash to pay the tax, you have to sell an asset in order to pay it.
Of course, you're going to be affected by it, yeah.
And everyone's going to be affected by it, and it would be the source of a second Great Depression, in my opinion. Their response is, don't worry, it's not going to happen. I said, well, she's put it along with Biden in their budget for the last several years. Elizabeth Warren, Bernie Sanders have all been advocating for this. And it's like, no. It's almost like an attitude like, we got this one. We got it. Which suggests to me that they don't view her as an ideologue. They view her as somebody who, it doesn't matter what she says. She said this before. She's saying, we got it already, say this other stuff now. It's going to be okay. Which suggests to me the real criticism of Kamala is the same criticism I've had of this system all along. This is a charade. The whole thing is about cogs in a wheel. We don't want to just go in and defeat one candidate. We want to go in and defeat that system. And I think that's the better criticism here than the idea that she's some kind of Marxist or socialist. I mean, Bernie Sanders is a true socialist. He calls himself one. Yeah. He calls himself part of the Socialist Party and Democratic Socialist. And at least he's an ideologue. I give him actually more credit than I give the person who's just a puppet and a cog in the wheel. But that, I think, is closer to the flame with Kamala.
But you say he's a true believer.
Bernie is.
No, that's what Pat always says about Bernie.
Bernie is a true believer.
Kamala's not. I don't think Kamala's really a true believer. I think that she is just another cog who doesn't have particularly independent thoughts, and that's an advantage to the people who control her.
The one thing, Vivek and Pat, that I saw from that thing that Elon posted is actually scary as hell. I don't think we actually realize what he said. If 1 out of 20 actually become citizens, then we're screwed. We know it's way more than that. They're saying the numbers are 20 million by the end of this 4 years. How is our side going to even combat that? Has the damage already been done, Vivek? Because they're here, they're not going anywhere. The border, it's still wide open. I love how when people talk as if it's still right now. I saw a video yesterday of a line of 25 to 50 Middle Easterns. None of them are speaking English. None of them are from here. And Vivek, I know you guys saw these stats. Out of the 7 million that ICE released into the country, 663,000 have criminal histories. 13,000 were convicted of homicide. 16,000 sexual assault. 1,845 face homicide charges. And that's not counting the terrorists that they let in and the 325 missing children. When it comes to the voting, Vivek, when it comes to that, are they already good for like election for the
So I think it's getting in that direction. So I got a whole chapter dedicated to the hard facts on this in the book. Okay. The chapter title is called "An Open Border Is Not a Border." Yeah. Which, by the way, the fact that you have to have a chapter entitled that in a book called Truth is remarkable. So there's two things I'll say about that. One is go back to 2012. You see articles in Politico magazine where Democrats actually made the case for this as a political strategy. So today, if you say the thing Elon says, they dismiss you as a conspiracy theorist. Actually, go back to 2012. This was part of the Democratic strategy. Mass migration into the country, including legal and illegal included, was a way of securing lasting electoral majorities. Now, they stopped saying that about a decade later because they realized it didn't look great, but that was part of a longstanding strategy, and it's working. Here's the other thing, though, that, and I point this out in the book in a way that I think Republicans have not yet put their finger on yet, all right? Let's talk about the legal immigration system even, right? Even if you talk about the Haitians in Springfield, that wasn't border crossers. That's a different type of, under the government at least, legal mechanism of temporary protected status. Let's talk about legal immigration. Let me ask you this. What is the number one human attribute that the current immigration system selects for? I'll give you some possibilities. You could imagine an immigration system that selects for intelligence. You could have one that selects for hard work or ability to make economic contributions. You could have one that selects for ability to speak English or knowing about the civic values of the country. All of those could be reasonable bases for an immigration system that values those attributes. Those are examples of human attributes. The case I make in this book is, and it's supported by the evidence, the number one human attribute that our current immigration system selects for is your willingness to lie, actually. Right? Because if somebody wants to come into the country and they say, okay, I cannot in good conscience select that I'm seeking asylum at imminent risk of bodily harm for my race or my religion, I can't say that in good conscience because it's not true, even though I'm undergoing conditions of difficulty. That person's not going to get in. But the person who does get into the country is the person who checks that box, knowing full well that it's not true. So now you look at that stat from Elon. Not only is that those are the people who are coming into the country, a small fraction of which become Democratic voters. There are a small fraction of which, even in the path to becoming Democratic voters, are demonstrated to be, are demonstrably already the people most willing to be dishonest and to lie. And by the way, if you're selecting systematically for people who are more willing to lie to the U.S. government than not, you're selecting for people who are more likely to break the law when they continue to be here as well. So that's the hard truth is you get what you pay for. Okay, the incentives you set up, that's what you collect. And what we reward right now, it's not like Harvard's college admissions, okay? Or maybe they reward that too, who knows? But your willingness to lie is the number one attribute that gets you into the United States or not. That is a hard truth in today's immigration system. So that makes that stat all the more scary. And that's, I think, one of the strongest cases for mass deportation.
Thank you very much.
If your country is illegally got to be returned to your country.
Thank you very much. You know, I have personally worked at companies that were venture funded, and there were hardworking people that wanted to get here in the H-1B program, had a degree from IIT, coming over here, or from Taiwan, all these places, and all they wanted to come here is work. And they believed in the exceptionalism that was coming out of Silicon Valley, and really marvelous companies they wanted to work for. And yet the H-1B would have quotas. And so honest people with a great education who wanted to come here, who weren't checking the box and claiming asylum, persecution, or anything like that, suddenly every year, you know this at this date, it was around April Fools. So around April 1st, the H-1Bs run out for the year because now there's a backlog of apps and you're stuck. And so you have one of the mechanisms of immigration, which is a way to legally get here, you know, constantly has a lid on it in terms of numbers. But then if you're willing to lie or you just open the border, you know, here comes the flood. And so we all came from somewhere else, right? At the bottom of the Statue of Liberty, it says, give us your tired, your poor, your huddled masses yearning to breathe free. We all come from somewhere else. But it's supposed to be, you know, legally, and we've got all these mechanisms to incentivize. It's not just the willingness to be dishonest, as you correctly point out. I believe you correctly point out based on the data. It is the fact that we encourage it.
Yeah, we encourage it.
And we encourage it. We say, well, just do this. Just do this. And hardworking people that want to come here have to wait in Germany at a refugee camp so your family can be checked out. Or you have to wait 2 years for the H-1B, your number finally to come up because they have an artificial quota cap on it. And you're just a hardworking person with a degree wants to come over here and be an engineer.
So let me lay, I love the way you say that because sadly, if you're honest, your odds of coming to the country plummet. If you're dishonest, they spike. Let's just take the first principles here, though. I don't care if you're on the left or the right. I'm going to give you a framing of what I think our immigration policies should look like based on first principles. And if you disagree, let's disagree about it. Let's think about your nation like a body, like a human body. So we often use the term, right, for your human body, consent. My body, my consent. Left, right, most people agree with that. Whether it's a vaccine, whether you're talking about, you know, sexual assault, abortion, whatever it is. My body, my consent. So think about the nation like a body. No migration without consent. That's number one. Number two is consent should only be granted to migrants who benefit America. That's number two. And number three is those who enter without consent must be removed. It's that simple. Three basic principles. No migration without consent. Consent should only be granted to migrants who benefit America. And those who enter without consent must be removed. That's the case. It was where I land on this book. Try to do this in every issue. Just offer some simple, clear principles that I believe most Americans, Democrat, Republican, black or white, will agree on. I think most Americans agree on those principles. I think those are hard truths that most Americans are behind. All right, so we may disagree on how to apply them, but once you've stated the principles, now you're just talking about disagreeing over application, rather than what we fall into the trap of thinking, oh, well, we actually disagree on the first principles. I don't know many Democrats who on the face of it would say they even disagree with those three principles. But if you agree with those three principles, that means, based on number three, you got to have deportations of those who are in this country illegally. Those who enter without consent must be removed. You got to have secure border policies because no migration without consent. So I think that that's something we don't do enough in politics is just identify our first principles on each of these seemingly difficult issues. The surprise And I think it is a beautiful surprise is that most of us actually tend to agree on those principles. And then it's just a question of application. And that's what I try to do in this book as well.
Again, folks, if you haven't ordered a book yet, Rob, let's put the link below for people to be able to order the book, Truths, that came out just a few days ago, a week ago. Some of you guys asked us about the only wallet that I wear. This is the wallet that I wear. This is the Valuetainment wallet that I wear. ID, cards, cash, easy to use. It's not heavy. It's not thick. It's not, and it's 100% leather. It is the only wallet you will see in my pocket. It's not a Fendi. It's not a Ferragamo. It's not a Louis Vuitton. It's none of that stuff. It's a Valuetainment wallet with the logo on the side. They're back, and here's what we're doing today, which I'm excited about. If you order one of the wallets, which, Rob, let's put the link for the wallet. If you order one of the wallets that we have them in brown, we have them in black. We're going to give you the card holder and the keychain of Valuetainment sent your way. Price $99. The link will be below for you guys to get. And you can add other Future Looks Bright gear anyways, because the event we're hosting here soon that we'll announce, to attend it, you will have to wear Future Likes Bright gear.
So if you like this clip and you want to watch another one, click right here. And if you want to watch the entire podcast, click right here.